first, let us begin with what else? Brexit. Because after failing to find a Brexit compromise in Britain, Theresa May has now gone looking for one in Europe. The UK Prime Minister started the day in Berlin with a visit to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and tonight she is in Paris to sit down with the French President Emmanuel Macron. Well, Mrs. May is trying to build support for a Brexit delay ahead of tomorrow's crucial EU summit. The UK's pitch is that it needs until the end of June to pack its bags properly. All right, let us join our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, who is in Paris. Darren, so what can we expect from Theresa May's last-minute meetings today?
Well, I think in part the reason that Theresa May has gone on this whirlwind tour of the European capitals today, meeting Mrs. Merkel, as you said, and Emmanuel Macron, is simply in part, Tessa, because I think there was an understanding on the British side that they didn't lay enough of the groundwork ahead of the last EU summit, that leaders were not prepared for Theresa May's demands, and she does not want to find herself in that position again. Of course, she is asking for an extension to the Brexit process, an extension up until June 30th. I think we're much more likely, though, in a situation where we will see a longer extension offered, potentially towards the end of the year, with the possibility that Britain could bring it to an end if it manages to find political consensus in Westminster and pass the deal. Now, you may ask yourself, why? Why is the European Union offering another extension to Brexit, given the fact that it is incredibly frustrated with this process, that it wants it to go away in many regards. It does not want many more of these EU Council summits eaten up with Brexit time? Well, simply, Tess, it's because actually the EU, despite what it says, isn't really properly ready for a no-deal Brexit. It is not ready for the UK to crash out, most certainly not Ireland, which would be heavily inflicted by a no-deal Brexit. And also, I don't think the continent is prepared for an economic eruption ahead of European elections in a couple of weeks' time. Now, we've heard from a whole series of foreign ministers today. They'll be meeting in Luxembourg. The French Europe minister actually suggested the French position hasn't changed, that they consider this demand for an extension neither agreed nor automatic. They, of course, have been quite vocal about the frustration of this process. The Irish, though, slightly more willing, understandably, to offer Britain an extension. Let's listen to what Simon Coveney, the Irish Foreign Minister, had to say a little bit earlier today.
I think that that EU leaders this week are open to an extension, but they certainly want to see a plan to go with that extension.
We want to understand what the UK needs this extension for, and what is the political surroundings around Theresa May to have this extension. And then comes the question of the conditions of what role want the UK to play during this extension time.
Thinking about the different scenarios earlier, and Mairead here was saying we probably are no closer to knowing which one would actually win. What do you think, though? Is there one option that is sort of leading the pack, all the other alternatives?
Yeah, it seems to be coming out of that meeting this morning is that an extension probably to the end of the year is on the table. There are still some in support of a shorter extension. I think what the European Union, Tessa, doesn't want is that every 3 months or so they have another council meeting to kick the can slightly further down the road. But be in no doubt, if there is to be a longer form of extension, it will have to come with conditions. Essentially, what they do not want is for Britain, potentially not under the leadership of Theresa May, to be a much more disruptive force within the European Union, to block budgets, for example, to veto legislation. And one of the things they'll have to work out tomorrow evening in Brussels is, can they attach conditions? It is a bit legally tricky, considering Britain will remain a full member, but what they will want, and I'm sure what Emmanuel Macron will try and get from Theresa May tonight, are assurances that Britain, if it gets an extension, will remain a good, fulsome member of the European Union that cooperates rather than tries to disrupt or obstruct the European Union in the months to come.
All right, thanks for that, Darren McCaffrey there in Paris. I'll start with you, Mairead. The terms you used before we went on air, it was Brexit brain freeze. I mean, there's a lot to talk about and pick. Yeah, now in Paris, though, it seems that Emmanuel Macron is still sounding a bit hesitant and maybe wants more conditions. What do you think is behind what he is doing? What does he want to get out of that?
Well, I think he wants a bit more certainty than we currently have, and I think we'll all applaud that because we want more certainty. What troubles me about all this conversation is we're now focusing on the date, not the deal. And let's be very clear, there is a deal on the table, agreed between the European Union and the United Kingdom. If it's ratified, it gives us all a path to the future. And we would need, I think this is the crucial issue, we would need at least tomorrow to get an understanding from the British Prime Minister that she can get support for her deal and we can get on with it. That even if it takes a little bit of extra time, we can allow for that. But it seems to me if there is to be a longer extension, it suggests that the politics in the United Kingdom is in a quagmire of sorts, that they're not able to actually agree on a path forward and that this lengthy period is required. And in that time, it has implications for us in the Parliament here. We want to make sure that we can do our work. And I think that the Council are also making sure that the UK would be, if you like, fruitfully cooperative rather than a hesitant member. And I think that's a fine line. And I think there will be a lot of focus on that.
It's interesting when you say a date rather than the deal. And Joe, you were going to say something. You said you had an idea what's going to happen before the show, but now you're going to tell us what that idea is. What is your idea?
A good extension till the end of June doesn't make any sense because then Britain must take part in the elections in May for going out of the EU end of June. So you cannot explain any citizen in the UK,
so it doesn't make
neither
sense.
back home. It doesn't make absolutely no sense. So either there is a very short extension for a few weeks till the 22nd of May, looking whether the deal will be done, or there is this at least 1 year extension to give more time for developments in the UK that could be more than a deal. It could have all other implications, new elections, second referendum, or revoke Article 50. So let's say the ball is in the field of the UK, but we don't want to be hostage again and again because of this chaos.
Yeah, and Valentina, you were talking about, you were saying milestones. You said this is going to be long and drawn out, and there will be milestones. What were you talking about?
Yeah, so because the EU is always the art of compromise, right? And there are these warring factions between short extension, long extension. What's the purpose? What guarantees can we have? Even if Theresa May gives us all the guarantees, she might not be Prime Minister. There might be a hard Brexiteer in place, and then all those guarantees are out the window. So maybe the EU will come up with something like, and then we will review, and then we will review. So automatic extension, perhaps, to get to this long extension, but with some review clauses in between.
I just want to pick up your point, Joe, about the elections. You see, April the 12th is D-Day in a sense that the British Prime Minister has to declare that they will hold elections. Already the political parties in the United Kingdom are selecting candidates. I sense that they will be taking part in the European Parliament elections. So therefore, in that case, I think it therefore almost implies a longer extension. And I think what we'll then be focusing on is the election in the United Kingdom. It will become almost the fulcrum of all the political reporting around the elections, which can be good or bad.
Yeah,